Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and today I took up another challenge. Last week, a fair amount of you recommended that I use the AEK with the sniper scope and the single fire mode, so switching it from full auto to single fire shots. And at first I thought, this wouldn't be too bad. The AEK is a great weapon. It's one of my favorite close quarter weapons in Battlefield 3. And so I was like, that'll be fine. I'll just have to click really quickly to get, to kill anyone. But I was not prepared for how terrible this setup is. It really was a fantastic challenge, and I did not think it was going to be this painful. But going and trying to get gameplay for this, there were so many times where if I was using any other setup, I would be victorious. But every single, engagement, every single firefight, I felt uncomfortable. I always knew that the enemy had the advantage, no matter if it was medium, close, or long range. If someone was shooting at me, I probably was not going to win that firefight. And just knowing that every single time you get into engagement is not a very comfortable thing when you're playing a video game. So really, the main reason why this was so painful is a combination between the recoil of the AEK and the fact that I was only using the single fire shot. Because when you are using full auto, when you pull down the trigger for, their quick burst, and then you correct for, the recoil so you can stay on target, it's not that bad, and it's fairly manageable. But every single time you click for single fire, your cursor is going to go all over the place. Your scope is bouncing left and right, and it's really hard to manage that. And it makes sense, and that's exactly how the rifle is going to perform. It's going to bounce everywhere. This is a close encounter weapon, and it's gonna have a lot of kick. And this isn't the case for weapons that are meant for long range, like the SKS or really any of the recon weapons. While yeah, they are single shot. DICE has made it so that they don't have a lot of initial recoil, and they just don't really have a lot of recoil in general. So even if you are pulling the trigger really quickly, it's not going to bounce all over the place like the AEK does. So I kind of found myself in these predicaments where if I went for someone at long range, like you kind of would think I would with the high optic scope, I had to take every single shot very slowly. It was kind of a very slow, methodical tap of the trigger, because if I went any faster, there was no way that any of my shots were going to land because of the high recoil. But then if someone was medium to close range, I was at a disadvantage as well, because I was using a high optic scope. So the scope itself, because I'm zoomed in, it's harder to track, and because of the high recoil, my scope is bouncing all over the place, so once again, it's hard to stay on target. And so it was just the combination of all of those things that made this challenge so difficult. So really, I didn't have too much of a battle plan going into this. At first, I thought that maybe that I could just hip fire people down and use my fast trigger finger to take people out. But that didn't really work, because every time I went against someone who was using a close encounter weapon like the FAMAS, the AEK, the F2000, really anything, they just blew my face off. There was nothing that I could do. My trigger finger is pretty fast, but it's not going to be fast enough against someone who can just hold down the button, hip fire, whatever they want to do. In those circumstances, I am going to lose. So I just kind of played normally how I would any match, and just kind of was like, you know what? If I do good, I'll do good. If I do bad, I'm not going to rage, and just kind of see how things go. After a while, I did get accustomed to the high optic scope and rhythmically tap firing depending on how far the target was. If they're really far, then just very slowly tap firing, and up close maybe going a little bit faster. But in general, this was very hard. This was a great challenge. I never would have thought of this. I really would never have thought of these constraints, and yeah, I'm glad that I tried it. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's terrible weapon challenge. I hope you enjoyed. If you have a recommendation that you would like me to try for a future episode, let me know down below, and also make sure to thumbs up the one you'd also like me to try next. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.